Welcome back to another episode of Capes and Tights, a comic book and pop culture podcast. I am Justin. That's Adam. We are the hosts. We haven't really been on for a little while. We kind of took a couple weeks off as a doing this together kind of thing. We did throw a podcast out there a couple weeks ago that was us together, but that was from Comic-Con.
That's correct.
But life happens. We just have life things that go on, scheduling.
Yep.
Adam and I don't do this for a full-time job, as much as people probably are surprised about that, right, Adam?
I would think we did,
but we don't. So we have to do other things, and we have family, and there's other stuff. There's a pandemic going on. I don't know if anybody knew that was happening too.
Oh yeah,
but there's a pandemic. So, but yeah, we're back at it. We're gonna do this review. We're not professional reviewers. Just to want to put that out there for everybody. We are just nerds that sit in our houses and watch movies and talk about them. We just thought the number of times that Adam and I used to work together, right, at Orno Brewing. The number of times we watched a movie. And then we're like, oh my God, Adam, did you see that movie? And we just talked for an hour on you on one side of the bar cleaning beer lines, me on the other side of the bar talking. And then at the end, we're just both like, that would have been a great podcast. That would have been a great podcast. Well, now we get to do it for fun.
Exactly. And we've joked forever how I always feel like both of our wives have been so encouraging, even when we work together, just to talk about comic books, because they both were like, oh my gosh, somebody else they can talk to. So
it was funny because I go pick up my comic books on Wednesdays from Paul Eaton at Galactic Comics in Bangor. And I mentioned that it was like weird that I only person that it was you for a little while. Then some things I can bounce off of Uriah in the kitchen just because he has some of those same interests, but not always. A lot of times this is more about basketball or like heavy metal music. Whereas now it's Colton and the brewery has that love for comic books now that I can actually get that out at work. But then like Adam and I have our therapy sessions every week talking about comic books and movies. So but we're going to review Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which is a new movie. We do it a little bit different here at Capes and Tights right now. We're kind of like, let you watch the movie in the theater and even let you watch it for 10 days or so on Disney Plus or online before we get in there. Because one of the things I always hated, and this is kind of one of those things that I realized that after I watched the movie on Disney Plus Day, November 12th, was that I then have to go back to the podcasts that I listened to that talk about this and find the podcast that I skipped because they did it because they got an advanced viewing of it and they were able to do it. Now it's like just in your line. Now, if you either saw it in the theaters or you saw it on Disney Plus and you go to our podcast and you're listening, it's bam, it's there now. Now you've already seen it. You don't have to worry about spoilers or anything like that. When it's like, I have to someone just reviewed the Eternals. Like when I go see the Eternals eventually, whether it's online or in theaters or whatever, I then have to find that podcast back in the find it down the list and listen to that podcast about
exactly.
So our little different thing is this. So it hit the theaters September 3rd, 2021. It was actually the first Marvel movie. It says online post-pandemic. I think it's kind of those weird things that I feel like we've been saying post-pandemic for a long time. The pandemic's still happening.
We're gonna keep saying it until it's true.
Post-pandemic. But basically what it was is basically, I would say, post regularly available vaccines. Like that's how I'm kind of like saying it. It's like we had the summer of 2021 where we were able to kind of do some things, hang out and stuff like that with the low cases, and everybody's getting vaccines. So I'm using it as a post-vaccine or post-immunization era of the pandemic where things are opening back up. So that came out September 3rd, 2021. So it was actually one of the first, that was after Black Widow, which Black Widow again was a online only release for that, or mixed release. It was a mixed release. This is the first one where it wasn't available online. It just was available in the theaters. And then it came online Disney Plus Day, which is November 12th, 2021. And we'll hit Blu-ray and DVD for those people who don't like streaming or want to own the physical copy on November 30th, 2021. Let's see here. It's 25th movie. That's crazy. It's the 25th MCU movie.
That is nuts.
It was made for $150 to $200 million, and it brought in, as of the last check this morning, $431.3 million in the box office. I think they made their money back. IMDb has it at a 7.6, which is funny because when I started making these notes after Disney Plus Day, it was actually a 7.7. So in the past 10 days or so, it has dropped a 0.1. Rotten Tomatoes has a 92% critics and 98% audience score. So fairly overall, as you see that, it's a successful movie. We could just end the podcast there knowing that it's a successful launch for another one for Marvel. It made money. It's fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. It's above 7.5 on IMDb. it's successful in my opinion
Yep.
as it is. As we move forward, I want to just start doing this on these podcasts. Spoiler alert. Adam and I will probably get into some nitty gritties and actual things that happen in the movie, but like, let's be honest, probably the biggest thing I'll spoil is the post credit scenes, honestly, and in that
of course.
sense. But like, otherwise, from this point on, we just talk about the movie. But yes, if you haven't seen the movie, please pause this and don't listen to it. I don't want to be the person who spoils a movie for you. So spoilers moving forward from here.
Yep.
Let's just, I guess I'll go over a little bit too. So Destin Daniel Cretton is the director. He also wrote part of the screenplay as well. And then obviously there's a bunch of actors in there. Awkwafina, Munger Shang, Simu Liu, Tony Leon, Ben Kingsley makes an appearance again, and Benedict Wong makes an appearance as well. I thought it was a great movie. I thought one of those weird things that like, it's the first new character movie for us.
Yes.
In a long time. I mean, you know, the first new movie post Endgame-ish era. I mean, obviously that was a Spider-Man movie, but like there's Black Widow, but then Black Widow is a character we already know about. So it's just more about her. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is a new movie, new character. So it was weird. I felt like I almost had to force myself to watch it. Does that make sense?
It's funny that you said that. I don't know what I was getting ready to say. Like, I wasn't excited. Like it dropped and I was like, all right, I'm going to watch this. And then the first, even like not even getting into that yet, like chunk of the movie, I was like, still no. And I didn't end feeling like that.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, it was the same thing. I wasn't like just super excited about it. And usually I am. So,
and that's funny because it's like this one and the Eternals. Again, the Eternals I'm pretty excited about just because some of the actors and actresses are in it, and I've read the series that it's really based on. I didn't read much Shang-Chi, and I've never been really a kung fu movie kind of person. Like I'm not a huge Bruce Lee fan. I'm not a huge, I'm a Jackie Chan fan here and there, like some of the comedy stuff he did and stuff. But like, I just haven't been into that. Like the martial arts I like is the martial arts that's based around comic book characters that are doing it because it's part of their thing. You know, it's not like a kung fu style movie, which is basically what this is. I also am glad it's kind of cool. It's kind of like the Iron Man thing. We're modernizing it a little bit. Like there was this historical Asian influence to it, but like you start off in the movie with it being, you know, modern day San Francisco. We're not just like, it's not an origin story of origin stories. We're just seeing this happen back in ancient China or ancient Korea. It's just basically like, okay, you're in this movie, you're now modern characters. Like it's not, that would have been even harder for me to continue moving on. If it was literally based off of like an ancient thing. Like they did that in Doctor Strange too, where Doctor Strange is more modern, but they kind of go back in time in a sense with the ancient information in here too with this one. I don't know. I just had that weird rush to see it. And I don't, a mixture of the Kung Fu with a mixture of a new character that I don't have an invested interest in, I think did it.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it's fascinating too, because we're seeing now, I mean, Marvel has such a huge market in China. And so we're seeing them building that base as far as, you know, more cultural references and language and retconning stories to make them, you know, culturally appropriate. And but like I said, that's also I mean, that's like I think that's why Marvel, it's why they do such a good job. They're willing to try completely different things that they know, like, actually, I mean, I would imagine they probably said that they were like, man, there's going to be so many people like in America that are like, I don't know, I'm just not excited about this one. But if you watch it, I mean, it's a quality movie though.
And I do give credit, and that's one of the things I will always write home about Marvel is the fact that it was a kung fu movie, superhero movie. So like what I loved about Ant-Man, which is basically a heist movie, superhero movie, and you like about a Thor Ragnarok or Guardians of the Galaxy, it's more of that comedy movie.
That's what we've said. Black Widow is like that Mission Impossible itch, like the espionage and
it's got to get people out of the mindset this is a superhero movie and that the fact this is a kung fu movie. And that's what I liked about it, because that's what Marvel's been able to do, because they've always get discredited because it's just another superhero movie. And it's like, yes, obviously there's a superhero comic book character story arc,
Right.
but it's based around a kung fu movie. And the same thing, like you said, about Black Widow being a Mission Impossible movie, and so on and so forth.
Yep.
That's what Marvel's been able to do, is like create a subgenre, like forget about the
Yes.
main genre, which is superhero, and then go to the subgenre is really what takes over the movie. And it's not my favorite Marvel movie, but again, I feel like at the beginning was kind of like, eh. But by the end, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. There's definitely some plot holes. There's definitely some downsides to this movie. Like there's some problems that I see. But an overall arching, great acting, great storyline, great, I like the fact that it's an origin story, but a really unique origin story. I like the fact that when we found out he already had the abilities when he's on the train or the bus, and she's like, oh my God, who are you? That to me is huge, because we didn't have to sit there and see this like montage of him doing push-ups and pull-ups and like getting into shape and doing all this stuff. He's like, no, he already had it. He was just hiding from it. And that to me was like, okay, cool. I didn't want to see another origin story where it's just like, okay, here we go. Like Iron Man building his suit in the cave. Like you don't need to see that. Or like even Ant-Man, great movie again, but Ant-Man, it's him learning how to like talk to the ants and all that stuff. It's like, I don't need to see that over and over again. Just give me the character, a little bit of a back, history to how he got where he was. But the person you're seeing in modern day already has the abilities.
Right.
That was great to me. Funny, speaking about that, the guy who did we talk about Kung Fu movie, Jackie Chan, and the fact that abilities, the fighting was amazing, and Brad Allen, who was part of Jackie Chan's crew for fight choreography, was the guy who did. He sadly passed away and didn't actually get to see this movie, in completion, or at least in the theaters. He probably saw it completion. I don't know if it's. I mean, it's already been made for a while. But that's crazy that you actually got like Jackie Chan's fight choreographer did the fight choreography for this movie, which makes it even more realistic, a more down to earth kung fu movie.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I mean, it's that. I think that's what I really like it, and ended up appreciating about the movie was there was that. I thought the cinematography was great. And then digging in on that, it's the cinematographer from The Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, like those shots totally make sense. Like the weird use of color totally makes sense. And so, I thought like there's a lot of neat people that were a part of this movie that I don't think most people even realize. Like you said, like, I mean, the connection to Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan and these like big time people in basically Kung Fu cinema. It's there's like heavy hitters involved.
Well, that's where to go for it too. Like obviously there's like someone people know, like the name Awkwafina is a person in Hollywood that some people know. Obviously, Ben Kingsley was in the other Marvel movies. Same with Benedict Wong. But you go on with some of these people that are very less known, and they spent not the money, but the effort in the training some less known people to do the part of the movie that you really need to know well is kung fu or is martial arts. And so having that in there, and I say spending the money, but like putting the effort into having a quality person doing the cinematography just brings that Marvel level to another level as a whole. You mentioned the cinematography and stuff. That freaking bus scene where they're fighting on the bus and, and the cameras like they next to it and going around it and stuff like that. That was unbelievable. Like this is shot that I never expected to see.
Yes. Well, that was when I read it was the cinematographer for the Matrix. I was like, oh, that totally makes sense. Like, because back in its day, the same thing. Everybody was like, that's wild. How did they do these crazy shots?
And the cinematography, the acting was great. I thought everybody was great. Seeing Awkwafina, she's more of a comedy person, and so like I was hoping, I was really, really like hoping that she wouldn't just be like one-liner after one-liner after one-liner. I feel like there was a great number of one-liners in there, but they were fitting and perfectly timed one-liners, which is what Marvel's been known for. It's like, okay, this is a somewhat serious movie. Someone's coming to attack the characters of the movie. Shang-Chi's actually, his dad's coming to like find him and his sister. But there's like the breaking that up a little bit with the comedy is what I love, because like we mentioned before in other ones like Marvel or our last Iron Man one was like nothing in life is fully serious. Nothing. I'm sorry. Someone dies. Someone at that funeral is laughing somewhere. Like not because of someone dying, but something happened. If someone trips and falls at a funeral, just because someone died doesn't mean you don't have to laugh at it. And so there's these times that they were definitely that comedic humor was there. And the same thing with Ben Kingsley's. interactions.
That's what I was gonna say. All around, I thought the comedy was handled really well in this movie. At first, Katie's character, I was kind of like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. But by the end, I was like, I could have her as a recurring character. Like, she's hilarious.
And she, her voice, I thought was going to bother me too, but it ended up
I did
making
too.
it. I don't know if it's just because it was different. Like it made it okay because it was different in the movie, but she did an excellent job. And you're right. And as we see in the post credit scenes and then towards the end of the movie, it does seem like she's not going anywhere. It seems like it is
right.
Like Shang-Chi's, she's kind of sidekick in a sense, like his man in the chair, his Ned from Spider-Man.
Exactly, which is great.
I love those kind of supporting actresses characters of that too. Speaking of Ben Kingsley, I love the fact that he was in this because it kind of brought that retconned kind of the 10 rings thing from Iron Man. However, was it too far to like, was it like, did you need all of the Ben Kingsley we got? Like, seeing him being like kidnapped or whatever, imprisoned by Shang-Chi's dad, it makes sense because like obviously he's pissed that he's like almost made fun of the 10 rings and they used it to help their own terrorist stuff instead of what he wanted to do and so on and so forth. But like, did Ben Kingsley need to be in the final battle in, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean.
It was good. And I think it was handled well. And I think they did, I can say I could take it or leave it kind of thing. Like there's a funny joke when he's laying on the ground. He's like, "Oh my God, are you dead?" He's like, "No, I'm just playing dead. I'm just playing dead." Like he's acting. That stuff's funny. It's nice comedic, comedic level there. But like in my mind, I'm like, this just seems weird that like he wouldn't help them escape.
And I think
and then just go to his own life. It was just this weird thing. Like, did he need to be there?
I think you hit the nail on that. I felt that like the whole way through with like, I think the Trevor Slattery character like is hilarious. It kills me. And once I don't remember the name of the little monster, but like that even like just made it even funnier to me, the little furry thing.
That he actually get along with it and understand what he's saying.
Exactly. But the thing is like, I've never felt other than like, of course, the idea of having an actor, that is portraying this fake stereotypical version of this terrorist is a good plot point. But I think they took that joke too far. But if it was separate, if it was like its own standalone goofy like short series with Ben Kingsley, it would be amazing. Like, but yeah, plus, it was too much. Like,
plus, I mean, let's see. So Shang-Chi and Katie were from the United States. Like they're obviously like Shang-Chi's from, his origin story is not from the United States, but like he grew up for the past few years in the United States. Would he been around? He's probably obviously would have been around when Ben Kingsley did this, and people are just gonna forget that like he helped the terrorists, like
right,
like this guy all of a sudden, okay, he's made amends now. Like this guy isn't a terrorist, but like it technically is though. Wouldn't he be technically classified as a terrorism even if he was acting?
And he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
I mean, so no, he's full on part of it. I mean, he's a terrible person, like a terrible person. That's why the only thing that would work is some like series that acknowledges what a shitty, terrible person he is.
And like his like, oh, they offered me drugs or offered me, and they're like, oh, to get him help or whatever. And he's like, no, they offered me drugs, like more drugs.
Yes.
Like, and then his acting, like I said, his the reason why he's still alive is because they want him to act Shakespearean plays and things like that. It was funny as hell. And they obviously wouldn't have been able to, they did connect in a way that Ben Kingsley's character, Trevor Slattery, was able to talk to. And I'm blanking on his name too, the little character. He doesn't say anything, so I don't think about him that much. But he was able to translate for them, and that's how they got into, the land and the woods. Like they were able to actually do that because of this little character.
Exactly.
But so I understand that, but like at that point, I feel like after the translation was done, like would Trevor Slattery in real life just have like hidden in a room somewhere and been like, okay, see you guys later? I don't know. It just felt like it was weird. Like he was actually like wielding a sword or something like that in the battle at the end. It's like maybe making amends. Maybe that's what it is. Like, okay, now I can actually do something good in this world after the shitty things that I've done. Be sober or whatever. And now, I don't know. It just, that to me was like,
I feel like the point that we've talked about it this much drives home the point that they took that story too far, because that wasn't that shouldn't be what I like. But I'm like you, I did the same. I was like, well, that's weird. And like, why does he talk to this little creature? And like, just then I'm spiraled off on this story of like Trevor Slattery.
Yes. Well, and then like part of me also was like, okay, how grounded so from the beginning, talking about the Trevor Slattery part in that little character, I'm gonna freaking piss people off knowing what it's
Like
actually
Marshall
called.
or something.
Morris. Is when you such a grounded movie. Like the movie was grounded, right? Like you see him in a sense. Like obviously there's that little bit of a when they're fighting on the bus, like, okay, that's not grounded. It's not, you don't see that in normal life. But like there's grounded for a superhero movie, and also there's nothing supernatural at all, really. I mean, the guy could fight pretty well. The guy has an arm, a razor fist thing. The guy is fighting, and there's supernatural to the people have super strength. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we just see this like Pokemon character come out of the room, which is Morris. And it was just like, okay, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we just went like in this really weird place. Trevor Slattery's there, and this Pokemon style character is there. And now this is getting really weird. But then it made sense that he's from this like, and then I'm trying Tao Lo, in your mind, the place they go in the woods, is that another dimension in your mind?
I feel like it has to be in my mind. I mean, just my mind, but
the connection. I agree. The connection between the whole, like Benedict Wong being in there as Wong from Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange being able to open up portals and all that stuff in there. The portals part made me think that it is just another dimension and another way to get to that dimension, like they would do with the circles in Doctor Strange. The way that only portals open certain ways and things like that. Because I mean, obviously, this is not just a hidden place that you can just fly over. I mean, it's like dragons and there's like weird creatures and all that stuff. So to me, it was like going through the woods and finding that maze the way they did with Morris to get to that entrance was going to another dimension. And that's why it's been like that.
Right. And I thought that too, because of the thing where they're like, oh, the forest will eat you or whatever. And so clearly, like, if the forest catches up with you, I mean, it doesn't eat you.
No.
But you get zapped somewhere. I mean, who knows?
And so as an overall story arc with the whole, like, finding his dad wanting to, here's the mom, thinking they can save her. And then, you know, there's just a couple of small things, like the whole Trevor Slattery being there potentially too much, the randomness of Morris just showing up. I love how Katie was just like, I thought your dad was batshit crazy, basically, until I saw us, like, the water, like the map of the water going around and all the stuff. He goes, okay. And then, like, basically the whole area is just crazy. She just thought he was batshit crazy. But then, like, the fact that they just drove a car into this new dimension and they just landed there, and the people in the dimension were just like, hi, go back from where you came. Like, what
which is like, because now that you're on it, I one huge hang up I had, like, the whole way through the movie was the Shang-Chi's father. I mean, first of all, like, he shows up, he meets this woman, and it's right at the borderlands of, what is it? How do I say it? Talos?
Talo.
T-A-L-O. Talo. And they fight and they fall in love. But, like, he was already a really terrible person. So, like, I get it, her love saved him, but it's like, I mean, when she met him, he was at, like, the peak of his crappiness. So the thing that got me then was like, I'm sorry, but if I lived there, I'm not moving back to an apartment it was a huge estate, but, like, I would stay in the magic place. I don't get leaving. Also, the fact that he put the rings away and didn't think that, like, the 1,000 years worth of people that he'd been pissing off weren't going to come kill his family, like, that to me was so absurd when it happened. I was like, what is wrong with you? You are grocery shopping and you just lived for 1,000 years and fought everybody. Like, that's, like, that just glared at me the whole movie. I just thought that was so dumb.
Well, it's also that, like, putting the rings away was almost like you had to put the rings away to stop using them, but, like, couldn't you also have just swapped from being bad with the rings to being good with the rings? Which
I guess the point was, no, he couldn't. But my point is, she should have. But I'm thinking, like, I feel like she should have known that and maybe helped him learn to, because that was a problem. Like,
well, that's the thing is also, I love it. If I hadn't put the rings away, she would still be alive is not true either, because he wasn't there. But he would have had to still be home. All he would have had to do is been home, and she would have been alive. He had to go somewhere, do something, and came back, and she was dead. So it's not like, so that kind of storyline, it was kind of weird. I do like Shang-Chi was able to use the rings for good. So it's not like the rings possess this power of bad. I do. I mean, they've definitely retconned the 10 rings, though, right? I mean, in my mind, Iron Man 3 was part of Phase 2 years ago, when they talked 10 Rings then, I honestly think that's where the Marvel Studios execs and writers and people in the room were saying that's what the 10 Rings were. Because they obviously everything in the MCU has been retconned in a sense to what the comic books are. They're not exact. It's its own universe. It's the Marvel comic book universe and the Marvel movie universe. They're not the same. They have basis to go off of. But like, this isn't the exact Shang-Chi story from the books. Like, this is its own interpretation of it. So when Iron Man came out with the 10 Rings, I that had to have been what Marvel wanted to do for the 10 Rings. Okay, we're not probably ever going to do a Shang-Chi movie. This doesn't make any sense. Yada, yada, yada. And so this was like a way of bringing Trevor Slattery in there, bringing Ben Kingsley character in there and doing this and having this 10 Rings as a way to retcon it without actually changing it. Like, they didn't change anything. That this person, the AIM guy, whatever his name now, used this other organization that was technically dormant because he wasn't using the rings anymore as his own thing, and then so on and so forth and all that stuff.
Exactly.
So I definitely think it wasn't part of the original plan to have this be the 10 Rings.
Yep. And it was the way they did it was well done. Like, I mean, like I think the whole actor using like stereotypes, it was a really spot on thing right now culturally, and like what that means and what we call terrorism and how much is media driven. That's all smart stuff. So like, I thought that was fun. That was the part of the movie that I enjoyed seeing how they made it kind of a truly more like Asian feeling film, which they really did. Like, it was, because I loved that there was a lot of Mandarin Chinese spoken in the movie. I thought that was great.
And that was huge. I wanted to mention that. That's huge to me too, because at the very beginning, the movie, like the first, 10, 15 minutes of the movie, maybe 10 minutes of the movie is in Mandarin. And so they talk in the native language, which is one of the biggest downfalls to any American-made movie or TV show that's supposed to be based in an Asian country or another language country. For some reason, all of a sudden, I know where they speak perfectly good English in these foreign countries, in these movies. What I did like was the way they wrote that in there. Are you practicing your English? Are you practicing your English? And it made it seem like the parents forced the kids to practice their English as a young person so that they could speak English, so that the rest of the movie could be in English, and there'd be a reason why, not just they happen to speak English. That was honestly very good writing, and something I really noticed when they start the movie off speaking Mandarin, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you have them speaking English. It's because they were forced to basically do that as a kid, and now he lives in the United States. You know, and it was funny who mentioned about the 10 rings and putting the 10 rings away and no one's going to come back to find you. It's the same thing with the son. The son learned from his dad. Shang-Chi is like, will you change your name from Shang to Sean? And just live like a normal life in the United States and think that someone who has that ability is never going to find you.
That is fun. It did kind of mirror that. Yeah.
Like, okay, your dad's never going to find you because your name is Sean. You're an Asian dude in San Francisco with the name Sean, and you're driving cars and parking cars for a living, which is also awesome.
And he's not actually, he's not really even hiding. Like, he's doing an incredibly visible job. Like,
it was not far. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree there too. I also love when that really, really expensive BMW shows up, and in all of our minds, we were just like, oh, Shang-Chi's going to get out of this big thing, and come to find out he's the one parking the car.
Yep.
Which was amazing. Was and all of the family giving him shit because all they do is park cars for a living, and they actually need to do something with their lives. And the fact that, they're leaving a seat open at the table for someone who had passed, and they're like, do you really think that he needs cigarettes and cereal in the afterlife? Like, it's just a pack of smokes. And he's like, you really think you're honoring him by putting a pack of smokes there? All that stuff was, again, it makes this what Marvel Cinematic Universe has been able to do is make fun moments in a serious it's an action drama film. It's not a comedy. But it's able to intertwine that, and I think that it led to a lot of the greatness of the movie. Special effects were great.
They were.
I think they did a really good job with special effects. Again, the storyline was great. The dragons, the demigod, whatever. What would you call them?
They're definitely demigods of some sort. I mean, or like.
It was weird. It was weird, but I don't know. It was nice to see that brought the Asian culture into it by putting the dragons and the different creatures in there. It was the seeing them fight, the two dragons and things fight and stuff like that was great. I mean, I had nothing to complain about that. There's definitely some. I watched it in 4K or 4K. The new they have it on IMAX or Disney Plus is the new IMAX thing. And sometimes that can throw you off compared to the TV you have, because the special effects seem to be different than the actual live action. But it wasn't too bad. It actually made me pretty happy. What I did notice, we watched Jungle Cruise, and there was some of that in Jungle Cruise. It was like almost like it was overlaid, like you have the special effects and you can tell it's overlaid. But in Shang-Chi, it was a little less likely. The music.
Yes.
The music was great, and we've talked about this in the past. And it's like, does it sound? If you remember the music from a movie, then it's an excellent soundtrack. If you don't, then it sucked. There's no middle ground, I don't think there, because you could remember it from a movie because it sucked too. But I feel like that when you remember it, the music is playing, and it's like the Asian influence in a hip hop song when he's starting to work out and stuff like that. But then the score and the other music that happened, I just thought the music in general was an excellent soundtrack. I heard someone who went to the theaters and actually, like, the song, the show ended and they bought it on iTunes. Like the actual movie stopped and they were sitting there waiting for the post-credit scenes to see the post-credit scenes. They're actually buying it on iTunes, which is like, that says something.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, that's why their Marvel's movies work so well. Like, they never anymore. I mean, that they're so big, they never skimp. Like you don't have to get like the guy that did The Matrix with special effects anymore. They could have just phoned in a few cool looking scenes, green screened them, and called it a day, and it would have been good. But it's like you said, one of the first things in that fight scene, in the what was that, a tram or a cable car or whatever, it's crazy. Like, it stands out. You're like, whoa, that's nuts. Like, I haven't seen that in a while. Like, that very physical Jackie Chan, the camera is there recording this, like, and it's because it's really different than CGI, like really different. But that's why their movies are great.
I haven't read it yet, or I guess there's a YouTube video or something out there of an actual bus driver, tram driver, who reviewed the fight and how they were able to control the cars and stuff like that. Like, he's like, no, that's pretty good. It's pretty spot on. Like a 20-year veteran of one of those cars that drives one of those things.
Yeah.
It was like, they did a pretty good job there. I'm like, that's pretty funny. They probably didn't think about that at all. They're not like actually looking to find like when Big Bang Theory was on TV, they were actually consulting with actual scientists to make sure they were talking correctly on the show. I'm pretty sure that Marvel wasn't like, let's talk to a driver and make sure this bus is moving the way it's supposed to be moving. Like, they're just going to make it look cool because none of us care. Yeah. But the bus driver was like, no, that actually was pretty good. She handled it pretty well, the way she spun the wheel. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool.
They probably just sent like an intern to ride the tram system all day long and just write about it.
Which, I mean, here's the deal. Anybody, even if you're a talented freaking driver, whenever they say take a right and it just takes a right and goes, like, that's not how it happens.
No,
that bus would have been crashed a long time ago.
The same thing with the scene when they're driving through the forest, that was bugging me. Like, they were just all kind of talking and he would go, turn right, and she would turn right, and I'm like, dude, if you miss one of these turns, you die. And like, they're just kind of having a conversation while they're maybe talking about directions. Like, well,
it's also the fact, like I mentioned about the car in Talo, like, was able to get from the forest to the place on the dirt without like getting hung up on anything. There's no boulders in the way or trees in the way or like mud, getting your car stuck in mud or anything like that. Would have been an excellent commercial for whatever car manufacturer that is.
Yeah.
Would have been like, hey, we go anywhere. The Ford Bronco. We even go to Talo. I wanted to talk post-credit scenes too. So there's two post-credit scenes. And again, if you watch the movie but you haven't seen the scenes, or you haven't seen the movie but you don't care, but you want to not be spoiled about the post-credit scenes, this is your time to escape this podcast ramblings. But there's one, the second one is of Shang-Chi's sister basically taking over the helm of the 10 Rings, which kind of saw at the end of the movie, you kind of got that idea that she probably would take the mantle over. Like, she seems like she's, has this underground fight ring, like Fight Club thing. But then she seems like she wants to do, and maybe she should try, like, maybe they're going to pretend like she's going to try and do something good with it. But I doubt it. I feel like she's going to have that Foot Clan TMNT style stuff going on, that like, I do feel like she's going to come back at a future. It could be a Avengers movie or some other movie that she's going to come back for it. Maybe Shang-Chi 2. But there's going to be some sort of thing where now he has to battle his sister running there's something there, but she definitely comes back, and it's cool because she takes it and puts her modern twist on it, where she's like, makes it seem like her fight ring she has in this post-credit scene. Speaking of that, there is an appearance of the Abomination fighting Wong, which also is weird because like
really awesome, but
he takes Abomination back somewhere with Wong, so they were not like fighting, like they were fighting each other, but like why were they fighting each other? Because they weren't fighting for money,
Right.
right?
I saw it a YouTube video that zoomed in on that, and it's some kind of containment cell. So like his speculation is like he is still imprisoned,
Okay.
but they're letting him train for something.
And there's also
Like,
supposedly other people in the stands too. There's different villainous things you've seen throughout Marvel's
cool. I didn't see
history in
that.
the stands that are like different things. I didn't see that either, and I don't remember exactly. There's a couple that pointed out different things that I was like, oh, that seems kind of cool. Like there was different creatures from different things
Yep.
in the stands as well.
It might
Which
might have been
cool.
that same video that that guy was hoping that they'd do some spin-off series about her continuing to run a fight club, and that every episode you get like this weird matchup of crazy like Marvel characters with a story that kind of overarcs like what if. And I was like, in my eyes, I was like, man, that actually would be like amazing.
Marvel Super Smash Brothers.
Exactly. Pretty much. Yeah. The series.
And then the other one is the two characters, so Shang-Chi and Katie, talking to Bruce Banner and to Captain Marvel, which is pretty badass. And then Benedict Wong was also there as well. And so I don't know if that's a cool one, just basically saying they're going to continue on and that they do know each other. That's the other thing I like about those kind of scenes, is that they to show that they know other people exist. Like one of the pitfalls of some of these other things that have happened in previous Marvel, like when Iron Man 3 and they are fighting and all that stuff. Like, where the hell's the Avengers? Like, why are they, this
exactly.
It seems like someone, at least one Avenger would show up to this thing to fight, not just Iron Man and Rhodey. Like, it seems like Captain America would be around, or Hulk, or someone would be to help.
Right.
It shows at the end of this, in this post-credit scene, that people know and that they'll be in contact, and that there's a lot more for them, and so on and so forth. Kind of maybe introducing them to the Avengers of some sort. Maybe Shang-Chi is going to become an Avenger, because there's rumors of an Avengers 4 at some point, which is pretty cool. And then she obviously does her thing. I gotta go save the world or save the universe, and she just jets off and sees that too. And it could lead into like Incredible Hulk, the She-Hulk. Bruce Banner is going to be on that, so it could be leading into that. Obviously, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is coming up.
I love this, like, through What If and this show and like WandaVision, this slow creep towards whatever like madness is going to start with the Doctor Strange movie. And that, because that one, I'm like, it's funny, Doctor Strange was not one of my favorite in the last rotation, but I'm so excited for this next one. And this movie was that, man, at the end I was just like, oh, you could like feel it getting there and starting to like all come together, and I can't wait for Spider-Man. Like, so yeah, that was what excited me with that second post-credit scene, is I was just like, okay, I'm ready for all the other stuff now.
And that's funny how you go back on that. We go, to do full circle kind of about the idea that we weren't really super pumped about this movie. Like, I was pumped because it's a Marvel movie, and I'm pumped because there's not as many movies coming out as there has been because of the pandemic. But like, it wasn't like this summer I was freaking pumped about December 17th and watching Spider-Man No Way Home. Like watching the trailers and watching them over and over again on that, like making sure that I'm putting it up on the big screen, not just watching it on my phone. It's something to say about the new Spider-Man movie. So there's even possibility that there's talk about Shang-Chi or the Eternals, that there's slight possibility of post-credit scenes, or even in the actual movie, seeing some of these characters, because now they can do that. Now we're expecting it. So now they can, whenever they're filming movies, all these movies are being filmed intertwined. So there's possible that they can say they were filming the Marvels movie with Captain Marvel in it, and she just popped over on the same set, just popped over to her green screen. They filmed her, edited her in, and there you go. Now you get a post-credit scene for that. Well, before it was like they were so far spread out that it was like they actually had to plan even further out how to put these things in a studio and do all this stuff. Now it's like they're filming Thor Love and Thunder, and it's like, oh, hey, we can pull Thor over to do something really quickly. And so that's cool about that.
I agree.
Just getting text message up the wazoo here. No. So as an overall thing, like I said, we don't really give review ratings. I wish we could kind of do like Conan does on Conan O'Brien. We used to do like everything was a random thing. It was like, okay, this is a 1+. And there's no actual system to it.
There's no numbers.
Numbers, letters. It could be letters. This one gets a thumbs up. It gets a thumbs up and a half thumbs up. No. But overall, it was another hit, home run for Marvel.
And I think honestly, at this point, you and I are very aware of it. Like, reviews, just as reviews, don't work with the Marvel universe, because part of what people love is that they do such an amazing job of connecting every story together. And so to do that, you're never going to get the type of film that you review bookend to bookend and say like, this was just a masterpiece of theater, because it has to be bigger than that. So like, this is a great MCU movie. Is like my final take on it. Like, it did a great job of expanding it.
And if you are a big kung fu, martial arts style movies, you got that in here too. If you're if you're a fan of any of the actors that are in this movie, then you're gonna like this movie. So I think it's definitely from start to finish was a great movie. And even Taylor, as I was watching it, going, ooh, I don't know if Taylor's gonna like this one that much. Like at the end, she's like, which is what she did for Doctor Strange and she did for Captain Marvel, and she's like, she's watched them all and she likes the most of them.
Right.
But she's like, no, I knew it halfway through this movie, it wasn't gonna be like another Thor Ragnarok for her. Like it wasn't gonna be like, oh my God, I need to watch this movie every weekend and so on. But then I looked over to her, I'm like, what'd you think? And she's like, actually, it was really good. And they're like, wow, it was actually surprising to see that she said that it was really good, because I liked it, but I liked it as I'm pretty much gonna like anything MCU related. It's not my top 5 MCU movies for sure, but I also don't think it's the top bottom 5 for sure. Like it's definitely right there in the middle. Like it's probably right there around Black Widow, where it's like,
I had the exact same reaction Taylor did, which was, I was like, this is okay. That's pretty good. This is pretty good. And then
I guarantee we're gonna watch it again and be like, oh, this is amazing.
Right.
Like,
but then when I sat there after it was over, I was like Taylor, I was like, actually, that was really good.
Yeah.
Like then I went and started digging back through Easter eggs and stuff. So yeah, like it's a solid movie. It doesn't really need what it is out of 10. Like it's a solid Marvel movie.
Plus, who the hell are you to listen to us?
Exactly.
Like, we're telling you about the movie, what we thoughts about it and our theories about it, so you can like have something to listen to in your car or whatever. But like, let's be honest. If you want to watch this movie, it's on Disney Plus. If you don't have Disney Plus, first of all, like, why are you listening to this podcast and don't have Disney Plus? It's beyond me. If you listen to this podcast, it should be part of the subscription. When you listen to this podcast, you must require to have a Disney Plus subscription.
You have to.
Yeah, but if you don't, wait for it to come out in DVD. It will come out on the 30th of November. Buy the Blu-ray and watch it at home for sure, because it's definitely a movie that we recommend watching. I will tell you, if we get to that Marvel Cinematic movie, I mean, if we were doing this podcast when the first Incredible Hulk came out, or Thor: The Dark World came out, I'd probably say, you can probably skip this one. I will tell you when we get to that point. I am a diehard Marvel fan, but I will be honest and open with you, saying you can skip it. But here's the deal. I have never listened to someone else's recommendation on that stuff.
No.
If it's a thing I want to watch and someone else gave me the review of, hey, don't watch it, I still watch it. And a lot of times they're proven wrong. I liked it well enough. It wasn't an Oscar-winning, feature film of Lifetime. It's a good movie, and it's a great movie, and it's worth watching if you're into.
I think the point you just made is the big one. If you love the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you can't skip this one, because I have a feeling there's some big things from this one that we haven't even started to mess around with yet. So you can't skip Shang-Chi.
No. And also, love, we didn't talk about it before. We'll finish up with this. The most fun part about this thing is in 2008, Simu Liu tweeted at Marvel in 2018, so prior to the actual announcement of this movie, that in parentheses he says, okay, at Marvel, are we going to talk or what? Hashtag Shang-Chi. And then the guy goes on to be announced as Shang-Chi. That's literally been talked about a lot on the internet. That Marvel and Simu Liu weren't talking at that time. It wasn't like he was even in the running. They may have internally had him in the running, but like it wasn't like they were talking and he was putting it out there like, haha, we're going to tease you. He wasn't the role of Shang-Chi yet until after that. And it's kind of awesome to see that someone tweets that out there, and then you come to find out they're actually going to be that character. And he kicked ass.
He did such a good job.
And so I'm excited. You should see it. It's on Disney Plus. Adam and I give it an Apple Plus 0.2 rating, which is fine. I can't say Apple Plus because Apple Plus is an actual streaming service. We give it an 2 oranges and 3 bananas rating. And we think it's worth watching for sure. You can make a smoothie with those 3 oranges and 2 bananas or whatever it is. But yeah, so that's our review. That's us talking about the movie.
That's all it is. Back to again, full circle. It's us doing exactly what we did while we were working late nights at OBC.
Yes.
It's just we're doing it and recording.
No structure at all. We just talk about the movie and see how it lands, and that's the way we do it.
Get really excited and giddy about something for like 5 minutes. Yep, that's it.
Yep, exactly. So, and you can check us out. We did do a Iron Man trilogy review recently. We've done non-MCU stuff. So we've done TMNT. We did the Clerks movie, which is cool because actually when this podcast drops, which is November 23rd, that night, Clerk, the documentary about Kevin Smith's life, is coming out also on digital as well. And good. Also this week, if anybody's out there listening and watching this week, Venom, Let There Be Carnage hits digital this week as well. So that's really exciting too. So that's a cool wrap up of that one too. So in the future, we'll do some things. I think what we want to kind of do is looking into like, maybe we'll review Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man No Way Home, or sorry, Far From Home, and preview No Way Home. So that comes out before December 17th. And then we'll do a review of No Way Home after that, because I feel like if we did it originally, we talked about doing like all three together and just talking about it. I feel like it would be taken over by the idea of talking about the new movie, because that's right on our mind, and it's new stuff to all of us. So in the future, we'll figure this out exactly, but we like the idea of waiting for it to come on streaming. I lets you at home listen to it and watch it more before actually maybe watch it in the theater, then you get to go home, watch it again, and then you listen to the podcast.
Well, that's and just cool with us. Most people probably can't afford to go to the theater anymore. So it also makes it more fun for most of the people that are watching it on streaming.
So yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook at Capes and Tights Podcast, Twitter at Capes Tights Pod, capesandtights.com, Apple, Spotify, all those things. Yeah, I think we're on Thanksgiving week. I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving, right, Adam? Like I think
I'm ready for Thanksgiving. I'm ready for some turkey.
Yes, we actually got some of that the non-alcoholic shandy in the refrigerator. What's it called?
Nice. I have some of that too.
What's it?
Polliner. It's the yeah.
Yes.
I think it's by Polliner. Yep.
We got that in the fridge right now for us too, because we like to. I think it's delicious. I think it's one of the best drinks on the market, honestly.
It's
alcoholic,
good,
non-alcoholic. So, but yeah, you can think back on old Main State of Mind podcast when we talked about non-alcoholic beer.
I know, it seems like 10 years ago.
But yeah, we'll be hopefully bringing that back here pretty soon too. But yeah,
totally.
So that's Capes and Tights. We're on social media. Find us and go watch Shang-Chi and the Legends of the Ten Rings right now. If you haven't, and you've listened to this podcast this whole time, you probably still should watch it. But if not, also watch Venom, Let There Be Carnage this week.
Yes.
And get prepared for that movie. Watch Venom tonight. That's what you should do. Watch Venom tonight. Yep. And then tomorrow when Let There Be Carnage comes out, you can watch Venom 2. There you go. We figured your life out. We figured your plans out for this week. Listen to this podcast, then watch Venom tonight.
Yep.
And then watch Venom 2 tomorrow, and then have Thanksgiving.
We talk about the new Venom at some point, and it'll be fun. I haven't seen the original Venom, so I can bring my fresh perspective to it.
And that will be probably one that we review both movies at the same time, just because it's still only 2 movies, and we haven't done the first one yet, so we'll do them at the same time. But play all of Capes and Tights podcast on Thanksgiving in the background while you're having dinner.
Yes.
People will love to hear us banter in the background. So check out, put that on, just put it on the Bose system, turn it up really loud, and tell everybody this is what they're listening to on Thanksgiving.
Exactly. The whole time, and they'll all walk away better people for it.
Exactly. But this has been Capes and Tights. I'm Justin.
I'm Adam.
Thanks, guys.
See you.